Welcome to the closing of Climate Law and Governance Day. We are honored to have you with us. We are very pleased that it has been such an inspiring, intensive, and extremely implementation-focused day. The 16 substantive sessions have been extremely expertise-based, but focusing always on how to implement climate change commitments through policy, law, and practice. And we thank all of the hosts, all of the successful hosts, some of whom went through rather intensive competition and merger practices in order to be able to pull their session together for their incredible endeavor. We are looking forward to sharing with all 1,400 registrants the recordings of your sessions and also recommended resources based on the wonderful ideas, books, projects, guidelines, papers, and other legal instruments that you have adopted and highlighted and launched here today. I would also like to thank our 3 plenaries who have shed light on incredibly important aspects of implementing climate change commitments in the law. Together with my co-chair, Dr. Ahmed Khalifa of the Ain Shams University of Egypt, I am honored to chair this final plenary. Dr. Khalifa, would you like to say a few words before we go straight into some exciting announcements this evening?
Thank you, Marie-Claire. Thank you so much for these words. Thank you for all our honorable guests, justices, academics, scholars and practitioners, and students. I'm so happy and honored to be in this closing ceremony as I was in the opening ceremony. And for a while, I cannot believe that what we have been working meticulously and continuously for 8 months has just passed in these 10 hours. But personally, I'm satisfied with the 20 sessions that we had, and hopefully that our audience also was satisfied. Our panelists, we have to thank them all for making time wherever they are and in the capacities and conditions that we are running in the Climate Law and Governance Day, that we have the honor. We had the honor to host in Ain Shams University, or to co-host with our colleagues from Cambridge and from McGill and from the Center of International Sustainable Development Law. I do not want to take long time, but I'm just stressing on one point that I heard in a lot of presentations and a lot of sessions through all over the day. Awareness of the climate change problem is rising. The desire to do something is out there. The aspiration of all of us, in all of us, is there. And the courage that is needed will be found and maybe pushed through society actions, judiciary, executives, governments, because action has to be taken. Otherwise, we are in deep problems. But I'm all hope that this is a start to find a solution that is equitable and just for everyone. I'll pass back the word for you, Marie-Claire, to start the award ceremony. Thank you.
Wonderful. As you know, Climate Law and Governance Day is held every year together with the COP of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And since 2015, since we met in the Sorbonne in Paris as part of the day, we agreed that we would offer a global essay competition for the best and the brightest of our students to be able to be highlighted for their arguments and for their work on climate law, and to attract more young lawyers to this emerging area of legal practice and scholarship. We are very deeply honored tonight to be presenting the winners of the 2022 Global Essay Competition. Judges from the Program Committee of the Climate Law and Governance Initiative have looked very carefully at the essays which came in some cases hundreds, in order to select a short list of finalists. These finalists have now been classified into their awards, and often it was so difficult that we ended up with a tie. So I'm going to ask if Juliette Maître is online to be able to present first the Spanish, English, and French Law Student Global Essay Competition Awards. Juliette, are you online?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful. Please do let us know who are our winners tonight.
Thank you, Marie-Claire. And I'm very happy to be announcing the results of this year's student essay competitions for those having submitted English, French, or Spanish essays. We've received excellent essays from a range of different countries, and I would like to thank all participants and congratulate the winners. I will start by announcing those having received a judge's commendation, then move on to essays having received a silver medal, and make my way up to gold and finally platinum. For the students who were able to join us today, please turn on your camera when your name and essay is being announced. So first, for the essays having received a judge's commendation, the first student is Ifani Nwokolo, and the title of the essay is Expanding Adjudicatory Frontiers, Incorporating Voices, Adapting the Designs of Hybrid Courts in Driving Access to Justice for Transnational Climate Change Claims Involving Corporations in the Global South. Ifani is from Nigeria and currently studying at the University of Windsor in Canada. Next, we have Putu Nugraha with the essay Sustainable Development Through the Lens of Local Wisdom and Customary Laws, Examples from Bali. Putu is from Indonesia and currently studying at Universitas Indonesia. Rebecca Brimble, the use of Inuit indigenous knowledge to meet Paris Agreement climate change adaptation obligations in the circumpolar north. Rebecca is from Scotland and studying at the University of Glasgow. Sean Shra, can a nation's constitution afford environmental protection in climate litigation? Sean is from Singapore and currently studying at the National University of Singapore. And then we have Lara Shirley, negligence and the Anthropocene. To what extent does Sharma, the Minister for the Environment, contest the Anthropocene thesis? Lara is from New Zealand and studying at the University of Melbourne. Now for the students who are tied and having received a silver medal. The first one is Sheyong Kim, Zyong Lee, and Ji Sung Park with the essay Past and Future of South Korea Nuclear Energy Policies. The three co-authors are from South Korea and currently studying at Sciences Po Paris. Then we have Kirsten Barrett, Megan Manion, and Koal Monehang with the essay Building Beyond Montreal and Basel, How a New Plastics Treaty Can Save Our Oceans. The co-authors are from South Africa and studying at the University of Cape Town and Rhodes University. Then we have Kelly Gorman with the essay Transforming the World's Food Systems, the Need for a Holistic Approach to Food Waste. Kelly is from the United States and studying at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. For students having received a gold medal, we have two of them, and the first one is Jorge Alejandro Carrillo Bañuelos with the essay Emergencia Climática y Derechos Humanos, definiendo el alcance de las obligaciones estatales desde la Comisión Interamericana. Jorge is from Mexico and currently studying at Harvard. Rachel Wang, Crimes Against Nature and Crimes Against Humanity, the Planet v. Bolsonaro in Reframing Climate Change Through Litigation. Rachel is from Singapore and studying at the University of California, Berkeley. And finally, the two students having received the Platinum Award, the winners of our student essay competition, are first, Michaela Bode, Coping Out, a closer look at the phase down of unabated coal power under the Glasgow Climate Pact. Michaela is from South Africa and currently studying at Utrecht University in the Netherlands. And finally, the other students having received a Platinum Award is Christian Goodswiller with the essay titled Net Zero, a vague concept on the lookout for guidance, policies, regulatory measures, and structuring elements for effective decarbonization. Christian is from Switzerland and currently studying at the University of California, Los Angeles. So that is it for our list of winners. Congratulations to all. And now we'll pass it on for the announcements regarding Arabic essays. Thank you.
Thank you, Juliette. Well, I have to say that one of the things that we insisted to do this time is to have an Arabic presence in Arabic, whether in the sessions or in the writing competition. So for the first time, the global, the Governance Day and Governance, the Global Climate Law and Governance Day writing competition is for the first time open for Arabic competition. And we received so many papers also. And we had the pleasure to grant certain awards for distinguished papers. So I would ask the students who hear their names to open their camera. من فضلكم من يسمع اسمه يفتح الكاميرا. We start with the judges' commendation and the bronze medal, الميدالية البرونزية وتهنئة وتشجيع القضاة. ناصر ثابت عن ورقته حقوق الإنسان والعدالة المناخية والمسؤولية الجنائية عن جرائم المناخ. Human Rights and Climate Justice, International Criminal Responsibility for Climate Crimes. Nasser is a student in Doha Institute for Graduate Studies, Qatar, and he is from Palestine. Abed, trade and investment and their relationship to climate change, التجارة والاستثمار وعلاقتها بالتغير المناخي. وعبد من فلسطين. صلاح جبير وبدور سالم، أحكام اتفاقية باريس عام 2015 بشأن تغير المناخ. Provision of the 2015 Paris Agreement on Climate Change. Salah and Badur, they are both from Karbala University and they are from Iraq. مهاب الحاكم وورقته عن التغيرات المناخية, climate changes. مهاب is from Helwan University in Egypt. علاء جرادة and his paper on the responsibility of Israeli occupation for the crimes of medical waste in Palestinian and international legislation. مسؤولية الاحتلال الإسرائيلي عن جرائم دفن النفايات الطبية في التشريع الفلسطيني والدولي. وعلاء is from the Islamic University in Palestine. انتصار بدر and her paper on Global Climate Law and Governance 2022. قانون المناخ العالمي والحوكمة لعام 2022. وانتصار من الجامعة اللبنانية بلبنان. وسابعا أخيرا وليس آخرا في فئة الجوائز البرونزية, the seventh in the bronze medal section is يارا ثائر العبادي عن أثر تغير المناخ على حقوق الإنسان, the impact of climate change on human rights. Yara, she is from the Applied Science Private University in Jordan, and she is from Jordan. So congratulations for all of you who had the judges' commendation and the bronze medal. And then in the silver medal, we had a tie between two students. فأيضا أطلب ممن يسمع اسمه أن يفتح الكاميرا. أريج علمة وورقتها حول حقوق الإنسان والعدالة المناخية, Human Rights and Climate Justice. أريج is from Hebron University in Palestine. والمركز مناصفة في القائمة الفضية the second also in the silver status is جمان رباح الخطيب عن ورقتها التغيير المناخي في إطار القانون الدولي والقانون الدولي الإنساني. جمان is from the University of Private Applied Science in Amman, Jordan, and she is from Jordan. Now, the golden category, we have a tie also in the golden category between two papers who proved to be excellent papers. فأرجو ممن يسمع اسمه أن يفتح الكاميرا أيضا. معتصم جنداية وورقته حول حقوق الإنسان والعدالة المناخية وفق الاتفاقيات الدولية Human Rights and Climate Justice in Light of International Conventions. معتصم is from the University of Tunis Al-Manar from Tunisia, and he is Palestinian. And the second place in the gold category is the paper of باكينام السنباطي ومهتاب علي الشناوي، وعنوان الورقة المنازعات المتعلقة بالحماية القضائية البيئية في مصر والإطارات القانونية المقترحة لمواجهة مشكلة تغير المناخ. Disputes of environmental judicial protection in Egypt, proposed legal frameworks to address the problem of climate change. والفائزين بالمركز الأول والطائفة البلاتينية, the platinum and the first range winners of the competition, the writing competition. It's also split between two papers. الورقة الأولى هي لميسة منصور حول السبل القانونية لمواجهة أزمة التغير المناخي في ظل تطور التشريعات البيئية. Maisa Mansour, Legal Responses to the Climate Change Crisis in Light of Environmental Legislative Development. And Maisa is from the Lebanese University in Lebanon. And also in the first place and the Platinum Award is Abdelhamid Shahata Abdelrazak في هدف حياد الكربون كالتزام دستوري على الدولة والشركات, the goal of carbon neutrality as a constitutional obligation on the state. He is from Cairo University, Egypt, and he is Egyptian. I am really happy and glad on an end note in 30 seconds to see students from more than 5 countries, from more than 8 universities, young scholars who are still doing their masters or starting their PhDs, who are writing, putting effort, and putting maybe one of the first bricks in the wall of producing knowledge and propagating knowledge on climate law. And this is exactly the point of the competition. And this is exactly why we wanted to, and we did, alhamdulillah, open and a competition in Arabic, and I congratulate all the winners, and I'm sure that next year we will have more and more papers written on climate change in the Climate Law and Governance Day of 2023 that will be also in an Arabic country in Dubai, inshallah. Thank you so much. Marie-Claire, the floor is yours.
That is absolutely wonderful. And I hear in this a commitment from our colleagues from all over North Africa to continue assisting us to be able to have an Arabic side of the global competition.
And you got my word, the word of the president.
Wonderful. And that is following on a commitment that we've just had with all our bar associations to develop guidance together for bar associations to finally come to the table on climate change. And it is to follow on other commitments that have been taken on throughout the day. So this is truly becoming a most wonderful day and exactly what we were hoping for, despite all of the conditions. I would like to now ask if our team could bring everyone onto the screen together so that we can see all of the students with their photographs on and take some screenshots for them. So we will give maybe 40 seconds. I will count down from 40. Everyone turn on your cameras, and the team will take photos of you in light of it being a virtual awards ceremony, I'm afraid. Your certificates will arrive to you afterward, and they will come, we hope, by the next, just as the COP ends. So 40, 38, 36, 34, 32, 30, 28, 26, 24, 22, 20, 18, 16.
We might need a couple more seconds.
12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, 0. I hope very much that we have some good screenshots with everyone who could turn on their cameras part of the ceremony. And I am deeply honored to congratulate all of you for your wonderful work. We look forward to celebrating and publishing your papers. We look forward to celebrating and honoring you over the coming weeks as we send the press release to your universities for your victory. And we are especially happy that you have been able to join us. We have some very senior colleagues online who have offered to give a toast to celebrate the winners of these awards. And we also have one more set of awards to go forward with. I will announce the winners of the Global Leadership Awards of Climate Law and Governance, and then we will turn to our virtual toast, and we look forward to that. This year's Climate Law and Governance Global Leadership Award laureates for 2022 in Sharm El Sheikh, Egypt are in the category of General Counsel and Legal Director of International Organizations, Dr. Patricia Kamere Mbote, Legal Director of United Nations Environment Program, Kenyan. This is for leading UNEP's Environmental Law Division towards the global response to climate change, while inspiring young people and her entire community. Patricia, congratulations. If you have been able to join us online, you can now turn on your camera. I will move on. For civil society, law foundations, and litigators, leaders in the very difficult struggle, climate justice, I'd like to announce 3 tied laureates. It was a very, very tough one this year. Sorry, 2. It was narrowed down. It wasn't as bad as it sounds. I would first like to recognize Advocate Lucy Grail, General Coordinator and Climate Litigation Lead of ASUD, Ecologia e Cooperazione Onlus, Italian, for advancing climate justice and community leadership in Italy and worldwide. Congratulations, Lucy. You can turn on your camera. We see you. The second winner, who will be probably no surprise to those who are with us, is, of course, Dr. Caio Borges from the Institute for Clima and Sociedade in Brazil, for supporting climate justice litigation in Brazil and worldwide, and building a community of leaders. And I am noticing that Anna Yang, the chair of his board, and the Honorable Justice Professor Antonio Benjamin from Brazil have also joined us online to congratulate you, Caio. Congratulations. I'm seeing some hands clapping already. But wait, there are more. And this is the category that gave us the most trouble this year, which is a good thing in an implementation COP in Africa. We have 3 tied winners for the private law firms and practitioners. The first person, who will come as no surprise, is Advocate Nina Pinto, Vice Chair of the UK Environmental Law Association, and also the builder of the Coalition of Bar Associations on Climate Law. And I believe she's Canadian. Her citation is for engaging bar associations in climate law solutions and practices in the UK and globally. Together with her, I would like to honor Advocate Lunisinga Zulu, the chair of the Law Association of Zambia, who has a citation for advancing climate law and governance in Zambia and globally, past, present, and future. Please, you can turn on your camera now as well. And finally, last but not least, the third person in the tie is, of course, Estelle Dehaun, King's Counsel, who has worked so hard with the Bar Association of the United Kingdom. Congratulations, Estelle. I can see that Advocate Zulu has turned on his camera. And if Estelle isn't here yet, can someone please text her immediately and tell her to turn on her camera? 2 more announcements to go. In the category of universities, we have seen many universities stepping up and taking leadership in this area, but 3 stand out. I will declare right away that I was completely recused from this decision and kept out of it entirely. I was literally handed the unanimous nominations of our chairs and past award winners. And the 3 winners are the University of Glasgow, Strathclyde University, and the University of Cambridge. Congratulations. And if our colleagues could please turn on their cameras to receive their award virtually online. I understand that Professor Gigi Yokubowskaite, Professor Henry Lovett, and the head of school and vice principal, Professor Sarah Carter from Scotland, that Francesco Sindico and Dean Professor Claire McDermott from Scotland, and Professor Marcus Gehring, Professor Diane Coyle, represented by Xavier Romero Vidal, and Faculty Chair Professor David Howarth have been working to join us tonight. Hopefully some of them have been able to have their cameras spotlighted on the screen so that we can do some screenshots for them. And if you wish to also spotlight the other groups of winners and do screenshots, absolutely fine as we go. Congratulations, Francesco, Xavier, Marcus, all of our colleagues. And your citation, of course, is for outstanding climate law education, research, and impact, with thanks for brilliant hospitality and engagement in co-hosting the Climate Law and Governance Academic Pre-Conference, the Climate Law and Governance Day 2022, and the Climate Law and Governance Specialization course during COP26 in the UK. We can see everyone is extremely surprised by this choice. Finally, and this is also an exciting part because there's an entire COP in the Blue Zone wondering who's won this year. And I would like to honor in particular Paul Watkinson and also Tosi Mapanu Mapanu, who were our winners in previous years. We have also a tie for the Climate Negotiators Award. And this tie goes to Ambassador Janine Felsen, Senior Negotiator from Brazil, spokesperson for AOSIS, the Alliance of South Small Island States from Belize, and I understand she is with us to accept her award, Ambassador Marianne Carlson, Senior Negotiator from Norway and Chair of the SBI. And their citation is for advancing understanding and implementation of the Paris Agreement internationally. Congratulations to all of you. But rather than congratulating you myself, I will call on 3 individuals who have joined us to give a special virtual toast to you tonight. Advocate Mike Strauss, General Counsel of the EBRD, which won a previous award in the category of General Counsel of an international organization, and Advocate Filippo Fantozzi, Legal Associate of the Climate Litigation Network, and Marie-Claire Graf, co-founder of the Youth Negotiators Academy. I would like to ask if Mike, you might like to say 2 sentences to recognize all of those receiving awards tonight.
Thank you so much, Marie-Claire. And yes, I would. You know, back in the 1990s, when I was cutting my environmental teeth, which sounds so long ago, it was quite a challenge in those days to get people to understand why what we were doing was urgent. I'm pleased to say we're not in that world anymore, but they always kept telling those who got it and understood, told us we were the future. And if sustainability is about anything, it is about the future and future generations. You award winners, in particular the students, are the future generation. You've distinguished yourselves with these award-winning essays, and other winners have distinguished themselves too. And so it is my honor and pleasure to toast to you. Cheers, salud, santé. We are looking forward to seeing your impact on reducing the human impact on our planet.
Thank you, Mike. I'm going to get my coffee mug, which is the best I can do this evening. And could we please ask Advocate Filippo Fantosi if he can join us from the Climate Litigation Network?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm absolutely speechless. It's amazing to see all these groundbreaking actors mobilizing their energies, their commitments, their expertise for the most incredibly challenging moment in our lifetime. And it's absolutely crucial and incredible to see all these members of civil society, for example, doing their part, creating these alliances with legal experts, negotiators, members of government, grassroots movements, and creating these alliances to drive forward change. And I'm really proud of the work that they've been doing, especially Lucy Grail at the Asud Onlus Foundation and the fight for climate justice that they are putting forward. Yes, I will just leave the floor to the others, but that's absolutely exciting and incredible to see this amazing alliance between members of completely different backgrounds joining forces together to drive change.
Thank you, Filippo. And is Marie-Claire Graf or other members of the Youth Climate Negotiators Academy here online with us? In case there have been connection difficulties from the Blue Zone, which is certainly not a surprise if that's the case, I would like to thank and congratulate all of the winners. And I would like to especially thank everyone. Patricia Kameri Mbote started this conference this morning with the story of the hummingbird who was doing their part. You are our hummingbirds, and we appreciate everything you're doing to put out the fire for climate justice. Thank you. I would also like to remind everyone that the nominations for the 2023 awards will open in February. All past winners and any member of the public can nominate someone for the award. Please let us know your preferences. Program committee always has a very difficult time, but it's worth it to be able to recognize the members of our community who have been tireless in their work and to appreciate them and their organizations who can be justifiably very proud of them. We will now move directly to our closing speakers, and we are very, very fortunate to be able to welcome two. I would like to call upon Dr. Ahmed Khalifa as my co-chair to briefly introduce, because her biography is very impressive and is available to all participants online, our first speaker, and then I am allowed to introduce Antonio.
That's a huge responsibility that falls on my head. Suddenly, I wasn't prepared for that. Well, I have the pleasure to introduce Ambassador Dr. Namira Najm, who is actually the chair and president of the African Observatory for Migration Center. She was before that the legal counsel for the African Union, a lot of interventions everywhere in the world. She's an ambassador in the Egyptian diplomacy, and she's still serving. One of the few people who have political and legal background, excelling in both. I would like to thank her specifically for accepting this invitation on a very short notice, despite her very busy agenda. For 3 days, I couldn't get a hold of her on ground. She was flying from one place to another, but she was always answering and she always welcomed us. And you forgive me if I forgot something of your very rich CV, but really you mean a lot for us Egyptians, for us Africans, and you mean a lot for women everywhere in the world. And I don't want to take more longer than that. I give you the floor, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much, Professor, and thank you for inviting me for being with you today. I unfortunately couldn't be in the room for a long time today. I was in the blue zone, hopping in and out in the meetings, so it was a bit difficult to be able to follow everything. But I can just commend the work that's done between all those who sponsored this very rich discussion. I can see that from the program you shared with me, from the titles of the panels and of those who contributed in the panels. So I hope for all of you to have a lot of good takeaways when you're going home for more research academically and more work to be done as international lawyers. Let me start by saying that although you spoke a lot about the Paris Agreement and the commitments and so on, I think at this stage what we need to focus on, especially in COP27, where we are now in Sharm El Sheikh trying to get things done on the ground in relation to implementation. The real problem here that, like I just came while President Joe Biden is speaking, I was just commenting on the statement made by the speaker, Nancy Pelosi. What we can see here from I always say the big guys, when it comes to the big emitters, one of the biggest is the United States. We can see that, yes, there is a political commitment when they come on that level and speaking on the implementation and the pledges. However, for me, there are some alarming like points that we need to think of, which is in relation to the commitment of the same amount from Glasgow until Sharm El Sheikh. This is a major issue. Like I'm coming from the Union now, and this is a major problem. How can we sort out these while even the pledges from Glasgow were not completely honored and other COPs? So this is one problem we might face. The other issue, which is for me a real alarm, when John Kerry mentioned that, yes, we are one of the big emitters together with China. We have the maximum emissions, but without sitting with China in bilaterally and so on, it's more or less a no-go, because this is one factor he mentioned that is crucial for the negotiations. I do agree it's crucial, but I don't think it's the only one, because every country has to honor its own commitments when it comes to this agreement and the consecutive pledges that have been done. Legally speaking, like, you know, now I'm doing migration, and migration stemming out of climate mobility is now on the rise. We were speaking today, and it's ongoing from the beginning of COP27, an attempt to give a human face to the climate crisis. Because when we speak about loss and damage and the commitments in relation to loss and damages, we mostly focus on green industry, on how to limit emissions, and in relation to infrastructure and so on. But when it comes to the human suffering, we are way, way behind. The issue of human beings and climate mobility was not even mentioned until 2009, which is very late in the game when we speak about climate change and its impacts on human beings. This is a major issue. One thing that, if we think legally, the consequences of the climate change on human being, we have a high, a rise in the number of IDPs. We have the rise in number in migrants across borders, not only within Africa, but outside of Africa as well, in relation to climate change. We are yet, of course, to bring proper data when it comes to the numbers that move only for climate change and not only in relation to other factors in different regions in Africa, for example. But one important factor here to note that when we speak about the preparations for the climate crisis in different regions, we have to think of several factors in relation to migration. So if we speak about the climate mobility at a certain point is taking place temporarily or permanent, because you will find most of the agreements speak about IDPs in the permanent form, but they do not address the temporary form and what we can do, how we can protect these people, protect them on the ground, protect them from being harassed, honor their human rights. Now, we have a major problem, and I would say a legal gap in relation to the planned relocation, because this is one of the things we speak about, the risk management. And if we know that this area will be under a threat because of different types of climate change, then the governments will have to do some projects in order to either develop the area for different formats or whatever they will decide to do, depending on the crisis, its drought or its flood, hurricanes, and so on. Then this planned relocation doesn't have yet a specific like identification in the law, unless we say it's forced migration or forced displacement, which is also another issue that we need to discuss, because they are not forced because of factors that are normal. This is like force majeure. And this is something also we have to think about from the legal perspective when we are anticipating of what will take place. And I think when we speak about climate obligations, even when it comes to climate per se, not migration, the anticipation is very important here in relation to all the effects of the greenhouse gas emissions. One of the other things that I think that we need to address legally, which now is on the rise, and it might come if the call for the ICJ advisory opinion on climate change will go forward, is in relation to the responsibility of states from one side and the disappearance of states, because now we are about to face this very peculiar situation where we will have people, we will have governments, but we will not have land, which is the third pillar to have a state. So how can we treat those? How can we treat the migrants? How can, are they going to be migrants? Are they going to be illegal migrants? Are they going to be like what? So this is a category that has not been identified in the law whatsoever, because we didn't perceive when we've done all the migration laws and everything stemming from climate change that we will have a state disappearing. It's like, are we going to deal with them as stateless persons? This is very, very, very vast like space for research, I think, to speak about it. And when we speak about addressing climate change, we have always to focus on the comprehensive approach, because now this is one of the issues when we speak about human beings and giving a human face to climate change. Because why I'm saying a comprehensive approach, because we need, when we now try to bridge in the gaps in the current legal framework that we have for climate change, is to address all these at once. Because I think by time we realized, when we leave a bit of it, then we come suffer of the aftermath later in less than a decade. So this is something we have to realize, and we have to think when we speak about sustainable development, And when we speak about projects that should be done in that manner and within that framework, here I would always say, when we speak about the comprehensive approach, especially when we speak about mitigation, adaptation, resilience, loss and damage, whatever terms we're going to come up with as lawyers, we have to always consider that at the end goal is simply, when we get finance, it has to go to its right place. And this is something I have to stress on, because this is not about just getting money, because getting the money without expertise, without programs to be implemented on the ground, reaching the grassroots level, then we can keep speaking like this forever. So I hope this COP will come up with a good plan of action for the implementation, which we can carry and take with us to COP28, with the big hope that we will have more sustainable development, less poverty, and less greenhouse emissions. I'll stop at that, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ambassador Namira Najm, for these enlightening words. And I really do thank you for your presence with us, your observations. I thank also our guest and the second speaker in the closing that Marie-Claire will introduce, Justice Professor Antonio Herman Benjamin. I thank everyone. I'm sorry I have to run because I have my flight to join you guys in Sharm El Sheikh in 70 minutes exactly from now. It has been a pleasure. Thank you so much. And I let Marie-Claire take the floor from here, and hopefully I will not miss my flight. Thank you.
And let me guess, the internet has suddenly stopped. Thank you very much. And it is a pleasure and an honor to introduce the Honorable Justice Professor Antonio Benjamin. Antonio, you're world famous. We do not have to underline all of your achievements that are online for our participants. I would simply say we consider it a privilege that you are also one of the holders of the Weir Mantry International Justice Award, and from last month, also the Award for Excellence in Environmental Law from the World Commission of Environmental Law, of which I am an active member. So welcome, and we are very, very honored to have you with us.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Marie-Claire Cordonnier-Seger. I would like to thank the organizers. They are just too many. And unfortunately, I don't have the time to thank each one of them individually. My congratulations to Ambassador Namira Ngam for the excellent introduction to something that is really complementary to what I'll be saying, because she is participating in the law drafting, and I'll be talking about law implementation. In 3 minutes that I had in the opening, and I don't know, Marie-Claire, if my video was finally played. I believe yes. I spoke on behalf of the Global Judicial Institute on the Environment. Here, I'll be speaking not on behalf of the Global Judicial Institute on the Environment, but just bringing some personal thoughts on judges and climate change. As we know, climate change is an area of law that's still emerging. And it's by emerging, I don't mean that the core part of it is not already there and inviting all of us, the members of the enforcement community, to take action, including judges. What I mean is that there are still several areas of in this complex new field of law that is being worked by experts as we speak. but the basic structure is there. When we compare environmental law and climate change law, the first thing that we can say from a judicial perspective is that judges were latecomers in environmental law. Because in the late 60s and the 70s, the expectation of the policymakers and legislators was that whatever norms were passed by the international community or by national parliaments or subnational entities, those norms would not require going to court, that the administrative state would take care of that. But it didn't take too long for everyone to realize that although those rules about air, water, soil, wildlife, and so on were absolutely self-evident in terms of their values, people, as in other areas of law, would not respect, and especially the state itself would not respect, often as required, those normative foundations of the new legal discipline. The idea then was that the regulatory state, the administrative state, would take care of that, and it didn't happen. With climate change is different, because judges are being invited, called upon to deal with climate change as the law itself is being drafted. To me, this is a major difference. And it is a major difference that has good positive implications and some disturbing implications, risks, so to speak, for judges. Because just looking at the risks, we will be implementing norms that even the policymakers, the legislators, don't have a clear consensus on the normative minutiae. On the broader picture, yes, but on the normative minutiae, sometimes this minimum consensus is not there. The second point that I would like to emphasize is that we, especially within the judicial community, still hear voices saying that judges should keep a hands-off approach in respect to climate law. And we need, in any debate, and this is an important moment, to reject clearly those arguments. First of all, because judges are called to intervene in this area, not because they want to, but because legislators, sometimes in the Constitution, require us, the judges, to intervene. There are other arguments, and I can list just a few of them. The pragmatic argument: there is no substitute for judges who can play our role, a role that is well known by humanity since civilization started. Another argument is ethical. We are dealing with an existential threat to life. And if judges are a pillar of the protection of life, how can we justify judges not playing the specific and historical role that it has been playing for millennia, but in this case to protect the foundations of life? We can't ethically justify that. We cannot, third argument, justify judges keeping a hands-off approach under legal theory. Because we know if the legislator enacts rights and obligations, the place for discussion about those rights and obligations are the courts. And finally, and I'll stop here, judges are just one of the actors. It is wrong to imagine that judges will solve the climate dilemma of the world, but it's equally wrong to think that judges cannot play any role. The difficulties now, looking at the practice, are several, and some of them enormous. I will mention just one, and then I'll move into my conclusion. Courts are organized based on territory. We call it, in our procedural terminology, jurisdiction. So you might have one judge that is responsible for one side of a river and another judge that is responsible for the other side of the river. This can work in environmental law. A little deforestation on one side, a point source water pollution on the other side. Both the causes, the victims, and the impacts are local. With climate change, those jurisdictional, I call them jurisdictional asymmetries, play a major role in redefining the way judges and courts work. In conclusion, first, I would like to emphasize that when we hear people saying, well, you know, climate law is too complicated for judges, remember that we judges are in charge of deciding cases that are highly complicated from a technological or scientific perspective. Intellectual property rights, about software, or about drugs. This is an area that is very complex, and you don't see anybody saying, well, judges should not touch those issues. It's taken for granted that this is a matter that should be taken to courts. My second conclusion is that the same argument that it's so complicated, we need to split that argument at least in order to have a good conversation, an intelligent conversation, into judicial intervention for in adaptation and judicial intervention in mitigation. Because the complexity in adaptation is not too different from the complexities that we have in what we can call now traditional environmental law. For example, integrating climate change in the permitting process, integrating climate change into the environmental impact assessment system, integrating climate change in the protected area system, and I could go on and on. The complexity, and then we have to recognize, is much bigger in mitigation, but still, for the same arguments that I listed before, the judges have a role to play because legislators and constitutional legislators have to the judges that they are not only welcome, they are required to decide those cases. And I'm sure during the previous presentations, including by dear colleagues like Roberto Barroso, Mike Wilson, those cases were highlighted from around the world, including my own country. So I end with that note, a note of humility, that we judges know very little about climate change law, and there is a clear need to give good information, capacity building to judges, and this it is being done as we speak by institutions like the judicial academies. And finally, a feeling that we judges are in this field because there is nobody, no institution, no individual that can replace the role of a judge. Many thanks.
Thank you, Antonio. Your words are always very wise and very deeply appreciated. And you are the ideal speaker, not the least because you are such a celebrated member of our community, to close this conference. I'd like to thank everyone, especially, of course, the universities that have stepped forward to assist, our hosts from last year, the University of Cambridge and Ain Shams University, who have been a wonderful, wonderful collaborator all the way through. And we look forward to seeing them back with us in Dubai and leading the Arabic essay competition, now that we have heard that we will be doing that. And I would also like to thank, of course, while you are here with us, Antonio, the IUCN's World Commission on Environmental Law, of which you are now the emeritus chair, and the Global Judicial Institute as well, for all of the work that you've done over the years to advance this crucial set of challenges and their solutions where we can through the laws. I'd like to thank the International Law Association and the International Bar Association, and of course, all of the fellows and team members from the Center for International Sustainable Law, our student volunteers and others who have worked tirelessly for months to bring together this day, especially, of course, Antoinette, Tejas, and Maeve, as well as Nick, who are here online with us, and my lead counsel, Ayman Chirkawi. Finally, I would like to especially thank a new partner this year, the African Union, and I would like to especially thank the Commission on International Law, who have joined us now and are part of the community and will stay part of the community as we move forward. We are growing in number, we're growing in strengths. We are bringing all of the animals that watched that hummingbird together, and we are joining in order to try to put out the fire. And it is the least that anyone with conscience can do. Anyone who believes in justice can do. And as a law and governance community, I would certainly hope that we could all say that we do indeed believe in justice, climate justice. So thank you. Good evening. I would especially like to thank everyone who has stayed with us to the end, and especially our chairs of the program committee, who together with me have been leading this initiative. Again, Ayman, but also Wendy Miles and Christina Voigt and Hafiz Khan for all of their wonderful collaborations. We look forward to seeing you all throughout the year and in Dubai. Good night.